Hi there, students. Insurrection, a noun. An insurrectionist, the person. Insurrectancy, the adjective. Well, it works though. Okay, insurrection is an open act of rebellion against the government or other authority. A refusal to obey orders, a refusal to be obedient to what the government or the civil authority tell you to do. So, what's the difference between rebellion and insurrection? Well, I think insurrection is an act of rebellion. It's one act. It's much more limited. Whereas a rebellion is a bigger thing. I think also to be a rebellion, it helps if you win. Yeah. So very often insurrection can trigger a full-scale rebellion. Okay. So the rebellion started as a consequence of several actions of insurrection. I guess you could call an illegal strike an act of insurrection. The government declares the strike illegal, and then to continue with it would be an act of insurrection. Let's see, insurrection normally is violent. It's got violence associated with it. It's very often armed insurrection. But insurrection is not necessarily violent. Look at Gandhi. He promoted non-violent insurrection against the British. Okay, so sometimes we can use this word insurrection ironically, in a social situation sarcastically. For example, a son refuses to obey or to do what his father tells him, and the father might comment, another act of insurrection. Yeah, this is sarcastic, but you could use it like that. Or insurrection in the classroom, when the kids refuse to do what I tell them to do. So, for example, be quiet! And they keep on talking, which is very normal. Another act of insurrection, more insurrection from my class. But this is sarcastic, ironic. Insurrection is normally something much bigger than that. For example, with the students in class, I think the film If, from I think it's 1968, is a much better example of insurrection in a school, where they take weapons and they start killing people. Okay, so insurrection, yeah, rebellion, refusing to do what you're told to do. But most normally insurrection is armed, yeah. Let's see, they were plotting insurrection against the status quo. So insurrection, as a definition, a violent, most normally violent, uprising of all of a civil population, or a part of a civil population, against the government or against the authority. Yeah, so the French Revolution started with an act of insurrection where a crowd took the Bastille on the 14th of July. So insurrection, refusal to obey, the soldiers probably shot at them and told them to stop, but the crowd just carried on. That's insurrection. When that builds up and becomes a bigger thing, maybe an armed conflict, that then is rebellion in itself. Okay, let's see, what about formality? Insurrection. I would give this a 7 in formality, maybe even a 7.5. Yeah? So the insurrection of the insurrectionist. Yeah, that's a really formal statement. 7.5, I might even go to 8. Informally, use the word rebellion. To rebel is much easier and more general as well. Okay, what about the origin? Well, the word comes from insurrectio, which is the past participle of the Latin verb insurgere, which means to rise up. But notice we also have the word insurgent, insurgency. An insurgent is somebody who is fighting against the government or fighting against an invading foreign power. Yeah, I think in insurgency is a little bit more organised, but insurrection, it's an act of refusing to do what the legal authorities tell you to do. So I could ask you for a rating and you give me a thumbs down. Another act of insurgency. So you can use insurgency informally as a joke, but notice insurgency is really quite a strong thing. Yeah, the mother took her insurgent kids to the class. Yeah, her insurrectionist kids to the park, for example. Sometimes I mix insurgent and insurrection, but they're both related, yeah? Let's see. An insurgent, somebody who's committing an act of non-compliance. That's an insurrectionist committing an act of non-compliance, where the insurgent is armed and fighting as a soldier against the status quo. So anyway, there you go. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Insurrection.